All right, there we go. All right, so
Alrighty, now we're ready.
about Ray. Yes.
Okay, so let's get it going. So we left off discussing our designated kids, or designated students,
Hmm.
what reviewing. So I will start by reviewing what I knew about Ray and Martha. I'm going to start by Ray. Ray is quite an isolated. One of his main facts was like he suffered a car accident that caused loss of hearing and brain injury. He was polite and respectful and responsible, so he didn't seem to be a troublemaker. He does fair on assignments, but his tests aren't so great for him, and he prefers to see visual representations of class material. And this is according to Mr. Jones.
Hmm.
Okay, so how my thoughts have changed about Ray. So we've said that he is isolated and quiet because he's actually a very self-conscious kid, not because he doesn't want to talk. He does have hearing issues, therefore he also may have a speech impediments, and on top of his limited knowledge of the English language, so he's not very good. He's not a very good English speaker, and he might also have a speech impediments, which might kind of drive him to be self-conscious. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
He has trouble learning and understanding the English language due to his brain injury. So he does mention that everything was easier in Spanish. And before his accident, everything seemed to be easier, and now so hard. He is possibly underperforming in class due to his lack of understanding of the English language and lack of hearing ability. So that seems to be one of the glowing causes why he might be underperforming in tests. He says that pictures help, but oral written language are a no-go for him. So he has trouble reading and understanding what Mr. Jones is saying, and the only thing that seems to be helping him are pictures, maybe in the classroom or in his textbooks. And he also has a lack of resources at home, and he can't. He is not able to be provided with a good hearing aid for him to be able to understand oral language in the classroom. So my thoughts have changed there is more like his family's not able to provide enough for him so he could have basic resources to be able to understand the material or to understand what Mr. Ray's saying and actually, kind of digest and start learning the English language as he should.
Hmm.
And he seems to be respectful and polite, and I think if he were to get access to what he needs, he would be able to perform better in class now that everything kind of would make sense for him.
Hmm.
Uh, he seems to be a good kinesthetic learner because he does mention that he has a motorcycle at home and he enjoys fixing it, and he kind of struggles with it as he fixes it, but he finds a way. So he seems like he says that he kind of like tries and tries until he puts stuff together,
Hmm.
and he seems to be a good visual learner from the he says that he learns some stuff from pictures.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think not being able to hear or understand language kind of setting him back a lot.
Yeah. No, and I did look up and it's so he expresses that the accident that left him with limited hearing happened a long time ago. So
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much that implies, but considering that he is only 14 years old, and if he lost a lot of his hearing at a younger age, that like the way that we learn language is like, we hear it ourselves, and so what we hear, if we hear something wrong, then we can correct it. But for people especially who are born deaf or hard of hearing, you've heard like deaf speech, right? Like it's very monotone, they don't articulate things very clearly. So
Right.
yeah, so I think just the limited access to language he has is definitely affecting that. So yeah, I
Yeah,
just wanted to add
and
Yeah, along with
especially trying to learn a new language.
that.
So maybe this happened while he was still developing his Spanish vocabulary skills because that's his first language. And imagine being brought here, not being able to hear a language that you have to learn in order to succeed must be pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it also says that like he like won't ask questions because he doesn't even understand like what's going on, so he can't even ask questions to like get clarification.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's all circled around, like it's nothing's benefiting him
Mm-hmm.
in that aspect.
I agree.
True that. So yeah, poor kid.
I know. All these are like kind of, or most of them are kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
the perspective that I learned, so like with Ray, like he's not an American citizen, so so hearing aids typically are not covered by insurance, but if you're a child, they tend to be. But because Ray isn't an American citizen, I think that's what's keeping him from getting a better hearing aid and also just better services to learn how to cope with his hearing loss. Because like even with like people who lose their hearing and whatnot, they can learn strategies like to read lips or to focus on expressions and whatnot. But again, going back to the fact that he hasn't really developed language very well, it doesn't help him in that regard. So.
yeah, true. So let me proceed to how thoughts have been verified section. So uh, he has not been receiving rehab or does not have a functional hearing aid. He is missing information from Mr. Jones' lectures due to his inability to understand English well or understand language at all. And he feels self-conscious due to his condition. And this, I think this is also contributing to him alienating himself from peers and from the lesson, just from the environment. So that's what we verified from the second part of the case study.
Good deal.
And what I still need to know, or what I would want to know, is has he received any sort of counseling or any sort of help from the school? And also, is this lack of academic support, because he does mention that nobody could help him at home. His sister tries to help him, but she's got to go to work.
Yeah.
And does lack of academic support at home drive? Is it driving Ray to give up or to just not even try at all? I know his condition might be, or is definitely contributing to his lack of retention. But but maybe if he was receiving some more support at home from his mom, dad, sister, would he be able to do better?
Yeah, I agree. Me too.
So yeah. So you guys have any comments on Ray?
I mean, not in addition to what I already said. I think, and unfortunately, I think that a lot of what's keeping Ray from, besides the fact that he has hearing loss and whatnot, is that he isn't an American citizen. So I think that keeps him from getting the services that are necessary to helping him with his education. And I just wonder, is there like a way around that status, like to get him support services at school? Because I honestly don't think that Mr. Jones can really do a lot to help him. I think he needs like intensive language support and oral rehabilitation. So I hate to be pessimistic, but I don't see what Mr. Jones can do on his own.
Like you want like you're talking about like administration kind of stepping in, or like other programs.
Yeah. Like
PSLP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I support that.
Okay, so maybe if he was able to receive some sort of social services outside of school, that would kind of help him out. Something like Medi-Cal or.
Yeah. So, something just to help him with that, because Yeah, like because when you think about it, like language is really how kids learn. You know, any child, whether they have a hearing loss or whatnot, that's how they learn. So
Mostly, yes.
yeah, and the fact that he doesn't have access to that, it sets him up
Core,
for
like so that's like the core issue of like what's
Yeah.
prohibiting him from academically succeeding.
Yeah, well, you're kind of taking the main tool here. Like, language is how we communicate. And if the kid doesn't know the language and he can't learn the language, then that's a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go over to Martha.
Mm-hmm.
So what we knew from Mr. Jones about Martha was that she was constantly disruptive in class and seemed to be copying Araceli's work, would not follow directions, and ignores Mr. Jones when she is called on. So that's what we knew from Mr. Jones's perspective. So basically he just kind of sees her as a troublemaker girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's talking, she's copying, and she ignores and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So how my thoughts have changed based on the student's perspective or on Martha's perspective
Mm-hmm.
is that, well, she does mention that she has recently arrived from Mexico. So I guess Ray had been here for probably, 6-7 years?
Yeah.
And Martha was here since last summer, I think it says.
Yes.
So it seems like she also has a very rough situation at home with all the responsibilities. Like, she has to take care of this person, and this person has to go to work, and there's too many people living in the house, and all kinds of stuff. So this drives me to think that Martha's first priority is not doing well in algebra class. She kind of has too much going on
Mm-hmm.
in her home. And her efforts might be deviating from her schoolwork into her home life. So it mentions that Martha was a very good student in Mexico, but since she's new here, she's self-conscious to speak in class due to the language barrier that she does have. So she's not. She's also not a native English speaker. So she does have a language barrier, and she talks to Araceli because Araceli's actually translating sometimes what Mr. Jones is saying. And it's funny how you see it in her perspective, because in Mr. Jones's perspective, she's just talking.
Yeah.
But when it comes to what's actually going on, she's probably like, "What is this man saying?" And she kind of turns to her friend to say, "Hey, what did he say? What's going on here?"
Yeah. And
Uh,
I just want to add, because Mr. Jones is like, I know that they're talking bad about me or whatever, and it's just like, no, Araceli is just explaining
yeah.
vocabulary to her. So
Yeah, so yeah, and I mean, you could just imagine you came from another country and you'd been here for a summer or for a few months, and you're in algebra class, right? And I mean, you're trying to speak, you're trying to learn English, but math is also a different language. So you're trying to learn a language in a different language.
mm-hmm.
That's got to be rough.
Oh, absolutely. And
So
she expresses that how rough that is for her.
So she was a good student, but I mean, her limitations here are kind of and also the home pressures. And she talks to Araceli for translation, and it mentions that she met Araceli at some sort of dance concert.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like her and Araceli are actually good friends beyond Mr. Jones' classroom. So they're it seems like they're good friends. They're just not like little buddies that chatted up in the classroom.
Yeah.
They've actually met, and they actually, I guess they probably care for each other. They're good friends.
Yeah.
So what thoughts have been verified? So for me, I say that Martha is underperforming in Mr. Jones' class due to her language barrier and home responsibilities, making school not a priority. So she's got way too much going on, and she's so new here that she's probably lost. I mean, how old is this girl? Something like 13, 14. Imagine having all those home kind of adult responsibilities when you're a kid, and also trying to go to school and learning this stuff. I mean, this stuff might seem irrelevant when you think about all the stuff that's going on at home. Like, why do I want to know what X equals when I have to do all this stuff at home, when I have to cook, when I have to clean, when I have to do whatnot, you know? So it takes relevance from school. What I would still need to know is if Martha misses her, does she miss her hometown and culture? Because, I mean, she's only been here for a while, and kind of coming to the U.S. must be a culture shock for a lot of people. You know, I mean, you might be homesick, and you're just kind of reluctant sometimes, and you just don't believe it. It's like, why am I in this new place? What am I doing? I don't speak the language. I mean, everything's different, right?
Yeah.
And that might be also driving her to underperform at school. Is she overwhelmed with having so many responsibilities at such a young age? I mean, I would say yeah, but I mean, it seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
Would she accept services from a district translator? So districts sometimes have translators
Mm-hmm.
for kids who are just brand new,
Yeah.
and maybe she would be self-conscious to accept services from a district translator, because you know, you don't want to be different. You don't want to be that person in class who's receiving these special services. You know the way kids are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would she perform? How would she perform if in class if Araceli's moved away, or moved not like away, but like kind of seated somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
So would she perform worse because she's not understanding like nothing at all, or would she perform better because you know how little kids are? Maybe she's translating, but at the same time they're kind of just chatting it up.
Yeah.
Where there's like a 90% chance they might also be chatting it up about stuff that's not algebra. So
Yeah.
gotta take that into consideration.
I definitely agree. I think she could be reluctant to accept services from a district translator, but I don't know. I think that's like, and even though the family most likely doesn't speak English very well either, I think that's when you need to incorporate the family dynamic into it, like get the parents involved, you know, to articulate the importance of getting a district translator. So yeah, I definitely see that she might, but I think if you talk to her enough about it, she might change your mind, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. she literally says that she would rather die than to be called on, and that like says a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge statement. So I think that she would, reluctant for sure, but eventually would come around because you want to overcome that embarrassment if you feel that passionately about something.
True. So yeah, she seems to be very self-conscious. Like, I'd rather die than talk in class.
Like,
you know, and most kids, even the kids that grew up here and are native speakers, they're self-conscious to talk in class. They don't want to go up and say anything. They don't want to be called on. I mean, you get those little kids that are very outgoing. They're kind of little clowns, and they'll take any opportunity to just say something. But you also have the other spectrum, or like the other side of the page, where there's these kids that they just won't talk, or they won't speak to you, or they're just super shy. So imagine being kind of shy, and that combined with not speaking the language very well. So that's kind of it's kind of synergistic to make a shy kid, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I definitely think that there's a change between I think kids are more like outspoken like in early elementary school, and then in middle school and high school they don't want to talk.
Yep.
Why are you calling on me? But
that's absolutely right.
I think it's just I think also it's an age change too.
They start caring a lot about what other people think. It seems that like it happens suddenly very fast too. Like so you get fifth grade, like they're talking. Sixth grade, ooh, everybody, whatever. You get to 7th or 8th grade, bam. Like bam. Like I care about what everybody thinks and whatever, you know, and I don't want to look stupid, and suddenly all that just becomes like very, very important to everybody, you know. So it is an age change, and these kids are in middle school. I'd say middle school is kind of the toughest age for kids, because I mean they're transitioning between elementary and high school, and these years like 7th and 8th are very odd. I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
just were then.
from personal experience,
Yeah, they're very odd years.
Yeah, I see some like 7th, 8th grade pictures of myself. Ooh.
Yeah.
Or even
Changing, bro.
like your thought process during that time too. Like, I used to think that, or like,
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes it carries on to ninth grade because
yeah,
all my classes are freshmen, and you could see a drastic type of attitude difference between the freshmen and the juniors and seniors, and sometimes even the sophomores. Like I think that the middle school attitude, in my opinion, will carry all the way, maybe furthest like sophomore year,
yeah,
and then juniors and seniors seem to be a lot more mature.
Yeah, they calm down. They get less
Yeah,
excited.
yeah. But that's what I've seen.
I agree
Yeah.
completely.
You want to go next, Kayla? I know you don't have your. I don't know you don't have anything written down yet, but you can just bounce off IG.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So let's go down to, I don't want to say her name wrong. Rukshana. I hope we didn't really know a whole
What are these?
lot about her in the beginning. It was a very, very brief reading. We know that she would, she's a generally nice girl. She's turning in her work, but it's wrong, getting bad grades. So we initially, we can make the assumption, especially, based off her name, she's trying, she's turning in the work. We can assume that there's some type of barrier. What kind of barrier, we don't know, but there's some type of barrier that's like kind of prohibiting that. And then you move forward, and then we read this great, like she like basically comes from a war zone, and it's just crazy. And it's sometimes like it's like humbling reading this stuff, don't you guys think? Like these are real situations, and like I grew up in Sacramento, California, never even think twice from moving from like Greece to here to US, having to learn 3 different languages like she did. And then you realize, oh, it's not that she lacks intelligence. It's not that. It's just that she's taking on so much at such a young age, learning 3 languages, because she learns, if I'm correct, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's difficult, so then you realize, okay, so there's that barrier, there's, she's, and Arabic too is like so different from English, right?
Super different.
And then you realize, given her background, coming from a war zone, her realizing what her life could have been, like, I think she states something along the lines of like how girls her age get old and whatnot, and she realizes that, and it's like crazy. It's crazy. But anyways, let me look down. I do have some notes down right here. I think that like the low grades aren't from her not being intelligent. It's just the barriers that she has, and I'm wondering that, like, if maybe you guys tell me what you think, if like being held back, I know that's like such a social, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like social suicide, I guess, especially like, you know what I mean? Like for people to think that.
But yeah, I do.
Yeah, but like I feel like this is something that could benefit her, and it's not because she's not dumb or anything. It's just that her level of learning is just different compared to those around her, and I think personally that is something that would benefit her. I don't know what you guys.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you've said. I also just want to note, I think a lot of the experiences so far in her life have been very traumatic for her. I think it said that her brother and his family were killed. They were persecuted for their belief, and then she saw her cousin die from a bomb blast. So I think it's just traumatic too, because can you really think of algebra when you're remembering
Exactly.
When you have some sort of PTSD.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think being, retention. I think that's the term that they use. I think retention
yeah,
in the class would be good, or in the grade. But I think personally that she needs to get some sort of like counseling for that.
Yeah, therapy,
Because
exactly.
like I know people who have to go to therapy just because they are clinically depressed, and not necessarily because they've experienced such traumatic events, but they still need it. But then especially for someone such as Roxana, who has seen so much violence in her life, like it's hard, I think, to compartmentalize that for her, and I think she needs more psychological tools to help her
Absolutely.
to also be
Absolutely.
successful in school and in life.
Do you think that like the educational system provides that? I mean, because they do have on-campus counselors, but like, do they kind of help? And I don't know too much about like the counseling provided by the educational systems in the States, and do they kind of provide that for students or?
So my mom is a teacher, and I know that they have a school psychologist. I would assume that middle schools
Yeah,
will have that too. But I think it would also be something that they would want. I think that I think it would also be the responsibility of the school psychologist to recommend them or refer them to further services. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much they could afford or how that affordability would affect it, but I think just referring them and pointing them in the direction of these resources would greatly benefit Roxana, not in her school, but in just her overall success at life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, the thing is that with a lot of these kids are like, how can you think about X's and Y's when you have all this stuff going on in your life? It must be very rough.
Yeah. I mean, she's probably sitting there like, is my school going to get burned down? She's not sitting there thinking, or doing that, because of what she knows.
And especially from what we've seen from like Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans coming back, like they experience that same thing too, and Roxanne is experiencing the exact same thing and whatnot. So I think I think you're right, Louise. I think she does have some form of like PTSD that needs to be addressed. So And what are your impressions about Steve?
I like this guy.
I like him too.
Steve looks like a cool guy.
I know, right? So right off the bat, we know he's intelligent, he's gifted, as his teacher says. Clearly we know his situation. He's diagnosed with CP as a baby, which luckily, though, he's given tools to help him speak and write, so he can communicate. He has a paraprofessional that follows him around, accompanies him to class, and I wouldn't know what that's like, but I'm sure it's pretty, not necessarily embarrassing, but you can tell, later on as we find out, Steve, he just wants friends, it seems like, you know what I mean? Like, he wants to be loved, and for someone who's 14, and that's kind of at the age we were talking about earlier, or it's like towards the end, where you're very, or you do care about what other people think, and Steve doesn't. He has the capability to learn. He is an intelligent kid, so he's very aware of like what other people think of him and what they think about him. So to already have what people who aren't handicapped, we know that they have already issues of what are they thinking about me, what are they saying about me, and then for someone who does have disabilities, they already have those natural insecurities, and then on top of that, it's pretty but look at my notes. So like social programs, I wonder if they have stuff